right, let's start with a quick reality check. According to the latest 2025 developer survey conducted by Stack Overflow, developers report being blocked, not by their own skills, but by delays in access, broken environments, delays in provisioning, or endlessly chasing approvals. This is the kind of friction that they face week after week in their workflows. And these are costs that typically don't show up in budgets, but one every developer feels. But also the kind of pain points we are talking about are the ones that are leading to transformation in the way organizations work. According to Gartner, by 2028, 85% of the organizations that have platform engineering teams are going to expose services to developers through internal developer portals.
The good news is that you already have the foundation for it. It's your existing Terraform setup. The primitives that you're building on top of, like providers, modules, no-code modules, are going to be the building blocks of building an entire self-service platform by itself. Today, we're going to walk you through how you can extend your existing Terraform and empower your developers while keeping governance intact.
Absolutely. To introduce ourselves, so my name is Bharath Ramanathan, and I'm an engineer turned seller turned marketer, and I live in San Diego, California. And a couple of fun facts about me are, one, I'm big into pickleball, like so much so that I carry a couple of paddles everywhere I go, right? So if somebody is into pickleball and want to take me for an open play this night, absolutely up for it. Two, I'm also big into frozen yogurt. Like if not speaking here, you might spot me in one of the froyo bars around the city. Take a cup, pick the flavor, pull the handle, and put my toppings, and nothing beats that level of self-service that I like.
Yeah, interesting. Let me go along the same lines as well. I'm Tejitha, Raju. I, very similar to Bharath, started off as an engineer, transitioned to product. More recently, my biggest focus has been to make sure developers have a much easier self-service experience, so obviously focusing more on simplifying that. Let me see, what is, oh, I love my espresso machine, right? It's a morning ritual. I wake up in the morning, make a shot or a double shot of espresso. Ooh, my steam wand where I can do whatever and like grind. Obviously, a lot of options. That's a whole separate conversation or a whole separate talk. Interestingly, if you look at the froyo and the frozen yogurt and the espresso, we kind of get that self-service experience,
Absolutely.
Right? What would it look like if that kind of self-service experience was not available to developers and organizations?
You asked a great question there, Tej, right? So what happens when developers don't have self-service? Here's what happens. Companies end up with ghost teams. Mm-hmm. Since it's almost Halloween, let's actually talk about ghosts. Every company has one. You won't see them in the org chart. You won't see them in the budgets. But you have your ghost teams, AKA the developers that wait endlessly for approvals or for environments. So these are the kind of friction that developers face week after week, as the Stack Overflow survey talked about. Let's do the math here, right? So let's take a mid-sized organization with around 800 developers with platform and security teams supporting the developers. If you take roughly a couple of hours a week per developer of idle time, it quickly adds up to thousands of hours of developer productivity lost. Add on top of that, your platform engineers and the security engineers trying to support the developers, it leads to several thousands of hours of engineering productivity lost, which is the equivalent of 2 or 3 full capacity engineering teams that exist but just don't deliver. Now this waiting cost, right, the hidden cost of waiting isn't random. It actually comes from how organizations typically work today. What I call as the producer, consumer, and the approver triad. On one hand, you have the producers who are the platform engineers that are drowning in tickets, are building the same infrastructure over and over again and again. On the other hand, you have the consumers who are the developers that are endlessly waiting for environments or approvals. But right in the middle are the approvers or the security and compliance people that are babysitting approvals or rubber stamping requests, and often seen as the people that delay everything in the pipeline. According to the HashiCorp Cloud Complexity Report that we just released, if you haven't read it, totally recommend it. Amongst the 1,100 respondents that responded to the survey, 73% of them say their developers, platform engineers, and security engineers don't work in unison.
Yeah, honestly, we've talked to a lot of customers where nobody's happy in this situation. Engineers feel like, the platform engineers feel like they're constantly getting orders, and on the other side, developers are constantly frustrated and blocked because they're not getting what they want. And irrespective of how your organization is structured, there are this compliance or approvers that kind of feel like they're bottlenecks overall. From a product perspective, it just looks like a complete ticketing black hole than like any usable product.
Sure. So we have seen the triad is now broken, right? So how do we fix it? The good news is you don't have to start from the scratch. You already have Terraform, the foundation for your infrastructure already today. Terraform is consistent, it's codified, and it's repeatable, right? Which already are huge steps in the right direction. But Terraform by itself doesn't deliver developer self-service, right? You need additional layers on top of Terraform to deliver end-to-end developer self-service.
Of course, so the additional layers look something like this, right? So we have guardrails where we define and enforce policy as code and compliance baked in, so engineers can move faster while also staying on their own lane. Governance by itself, making sure your approvals, auditability, and cost controls are in place so that infrastructure obviously is like easy to use, but at the same time more accountable. And finally, we have the workflows itself, basically how developers are consuming the infrastructure that you were providing, be it Backstage, ServiceNow, Waypoint, or God forbid, even GitHub Actions. We just want to make sure it's absolutely easy for a developer to have an idea and start running the application in a much more accelerated way.
Absolutely, right? So this is where the magic happens, where you have Terraform being the foundation for your developer self-service.
Yeah, we want to use those guardrails so you can take your existing simplified, even though I'm oversimplifying it, infrastructure as code to the next level as a self-service platform overall.
Absolutely. So when we talk about self-service, right, it's easy for me to stand here and lecture to you saying, hey, like drop everything you do today and buy X and Y to have self-service. But that's not how engineering organizations work. That's not how real progress is made. Every platform, tool, workflow, or process that you're using today, it didn't land by accident, right? You had individuals or teams doing due diligence to validate it, doing POC, and then you embraced that decision. So it's very unfair for me if I were to say, hey, like drop everything and buy this X and Y. What I've also seen work is, or what I've seen work is the concept of meeting teams where they are in their tools, in their products, in their workflows, right? And you all have a fantastic foundation in Terraform. And self-service itself there is no one path to self-service, right? Some organizations may use developer portals like Backstage or other commercial developer portals for achieving self-service. Or some organizations are deep into ticketing systems like ServiceNow or Jira, right? And they might be using self-service in their own ways. Or some teams may demand that self-service stay within the Terraform construct, right? Irrespective of which path you're going to take, Terraform remains that foundation that's tying all of those self-service together. Whether it's developers clicking on portals, or submitting tickets through ITSM-based workflows, or staying within Terraform, we are ready to show you how you can achieve self-service by extending Terraform from where you are today. So with that, enough talking. We want to shift to demos and show you multiple paths, what we demonstrated here in terms of a flow chart in real action. The first path we are going to talk about here is developer portals. When I say developer portals, one of the names that is synonymous with the developer portals is Backstage. It's a household name, right? We have talked to a lot of customers, and customers love Backstage because it's open source, and it's very flexible. You can do whatever you want with it. But also, we have heard on the other side, customers complain saying, hey, like using Backstage is like shopping at IKEA. You buy a big box, millions of parts, and it takes endless time to assemble it. On the other side of the spectrum, you have commercial developer portals. One of the examples being Red Hat Developer Hub, right, which is built on top of Backstage, but it's batteries included. Or there may be other developer portals, right, which are also available in the market. The point is to say not one is better than the other. Each one's journey is different, as I said. And depending on how much you want to build versus buy, again, it's going to be different. So in this example, we are going to show how Terraform acts as that orchestration layer, taking a developer portal to a full-fledged self-service platform. And Tej would talk us through the demo here.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's actually discuss about why this kind of makes sense, right? So we have organizations where developers are going through multitude of tools, and the ask from platform engineers is pretty simple. I don't want them to go through all these tools. Can you give me a solution that's exactly one portal by itself? That way, it's much more easier for developer to get started. So let's actually jump in and look at an example where an AI engineer is wanting some resources, and we will provision it with Terraform. So we are actually, the example by itself goes through, oh, sorry, I should play it. Goes through identifying the provider we want to use. Think about creating some machine pools. Machine pools are a group of EC2 instances. So I'm looking at the provider as a platform engineer, looking at the provider in my private registry, making sure that I know all the inputs and outputs necessary to set it up with the developer hub by itself, and making sure everything is ready. Let's actually switch back to the view with the developer itself. So this is Red Hat Developer Hub. So obviously, we're only going to look at self-service today. I, as a developer, am focusing more on cluster automation. Almost everything here runs Terraform behind the scenes, but we're going to focus more on creating that machine pool. So what this template does is creates a machine pool on an existing ROSA cluster. And ROSA stands for Red Hat OpenShift, specifically on AWS. So I'm going in, providing my inputs. I'm choosing a cluster name. Obviously, a machine pool name. I'm choosing the instance type. I'm choosing an ARM node. So my machine pool name is also an ARM node. I'm enabling auto-scaling and making sure I give the minimum and maximum replicas. OK, everything looks good. And I create. So now you can see the progress of what's happening with respect to the Terraform run by itself. I can switch back to Terraform Cloud and look at the plan being applied. Within Developer Hub, I get notified as soon as the machine pool gets created on AWS. You can see how things have been very simple. Developers don't have to leave the platform by itself, and everything is readily available. The good thing about Developer Hub is it's not just about bringing Terraform. You can connect absolutely anything to it. So think about developers wanting VCS, bring it to Developer Hub. Developers wanting like Jira, bring it to Developer Hub. It's going to be one singular portal where developers can pick and choose everything that they need.
All right. So that was a very neat demo, right? Like where a developer expanded their machine pools on Red Hat OpenShift on AWS, right? Very easy, or looked very easy, because Terraform was the orchestrator that was actually doing everything behind the scenes. And one of the key things that Terraform brought to the table was taking the concept of a developer portal and extending it to a full-fledged developer self-service platform, right? So that's what HCP Terraform in that instance did. And developers got the speed and simplicity without learning to use Terraform or learning HCL. Platform teams remained in control and keeping governance intact, and which results in faster, consistent, and scalable delivery if the teams standardized on developer portals, as Tej showed an example being Developer Hub, but can be any flavor of Backstage or any commercial product that can integrate with Terraform through APIs. Now that we have seen that, let's shift lanes to the next path that we had in the flowchart here. We're shifting to enterprise lane, where one of the examples that we want to demonstrate is a ticketing system, right, like ServiceNow, where it's seen as the system of record for governance and compliance. It's the front door for IT, where all of the requests, approvals, and incidents live. And the key thing Terraform brings to the table is one of the key things that the ITSM applications don't have is a sophisticated orchestration or automation system on the back end, which is exactly what Terraform brings to the table, taking the ticketing system to a whole new level of developer self-service experience. And again, switching back to Tej to demonstrate that.
Yeah, let's quickly talk about why this makes sense, right? So we always find it hard when we're pitching self-service as a concept to organizations, especially when they're in highly regulated environments, because the governance and the approvals cannot be completely removed. So self-service kind of needs to run in parallel with the guardrails that they've already set in place. So ServiceNow is a natural partner here for us. And let's actually go through a very good example of how it's helping some of the organizations today. So we're going to a Terraform catalog. We're choosing our catalog items. Think about catalog item as a template itself. I'm providing some variables. So basically what I'm trying to do is create an RDS resource. I give them a workspace name, and I provision the workspace by itself. But obviously, we can go and see how things are working on the Terraform side. But the good thing about ServiceNow as it is it doesn't stop there. It also goes to day 2 ops of things. So if, say, I decide to make a change to the existing resource or just the infrastructure itself, let's actually go to the module, and I decided to add a load balancer. So I basically commit the changes. I'll go through the basic VCS process. I cut a new release, and obviously that's what's happening. And once that is done, it doesn't stop there. I think sometimes we hear this a lot. You have to make sure you go to your registry and you pin the right version. If it's your latest version, you should do that so that anything that's pulling the no-code module itself, make sure it's using the version that is intended. So now when I go back to ServiceNow, I can update the existing workspace. So I just give the workspace name. I get updated, and it goes back to the existing workspace, and we can see that the load balancer gets added to the existing workspace. Come here. Let's actually, while this is going on, let's actually also look at how things look like from the developer perspective, right? So this is how a developer gets started. So until now, we saw how platform engineer sets everything up. Obviously, we try to speed up a few things, but the process is pretty much the same. So the catalog item exists. The developer can go in and provide some input variables, and then things get started behind the scenes. You can see how the no-code module by itself provides that a much stronger ecosystem for ServiceNow.
Awesome. That was a very neat demo of how developers can still attain self-service within the construct of IT self-service management systems, right? Where the governance, the audit trails, and the controls remain intact, and Terraform powers automation, consistency, and visibility to the whole teams. So this actually sort of wraps up the path 2 that we wanted to show you. And the third path we wanted to show you is where teams are huge in Terraform, right? So they want to stay within the construct of Terraform and expose developer self-service to teams from within Terraform, and which is where HCP Waypoint comes in. HCP Waypoint is a Terraform native developer self-service that standardizes and abstracts away infrastructure from developers. And it comes in with a very neat, simple GUI or API access for developers. And the platform teams maintain the guardrails that they need and stay in control with security also weaved in. So let's see the last demo here. Tej being the product manager for Waypoint. She's going to be super passionate about it, and we're going to take it home with this.
Yes, yes. Obviously, my favorite. I don't want to repeat the same thing. So yes, the ask from the developers is pretty same. They want to be able to get started. They want to be able to have like a single central place to get started. But the ask for Waypoint by itself is more about from the platform engineers. So they have their existing infrastructure already in Terraform. They've heavily invested in Terraform. They don't want to worry about new products, new tools, setting everything up. They want to get started as quickly as possible and provide value to their developers. Let's actually go through an example of Waypoint by itself. So here, Waypoint also uses no-code modules as a starting point. So this example goes through using a no-code module to create a template that is going to deploy an ECS cluster. So here's a template. When you create a template, you get to see all the developer instructions, the inputs and outputs. Some of the inputs are already defined by your platform engineer, but you as a developer can provide some inputs if it's requested by your platform engineer. You can see that this template by itself has no action associated to it. Once that template is provisioned, this is how it would look like as an application. And obviously, the application has its own inputs and outputs. So now let's go and pick an action and associate it to an application. This is what a platform engineer would do, provide the ability to do one-click actions on top of the existing applications. So I'm going and applying these changes, and my existing application, action is associated with an existing application. Let's actually go to the app. I'm quickly showing you a private repository for that that we will be using, but let's switch back to the action itself, the application itself. Within the application, once I go in as a developer, I have an action tab, and obviously I have an action that deploys to ECR. So what it does is, I as a developer have an application. Think about it as simple as a to-do application that I'm packaging and deploying to ECR. This is going to take a few minutes, but let's actually wait and see if the image shows up in the registry by itself. Once that is done, we go back to the ECS that we already deployed and make sure it pulls the latest version of it. Now you can see the task is running. So we'll switch back to our application, pick the URL endpoint, and voila, we have the to-do application.
There you go.
So just a quick recap of the demo itself. So it's absolutely easy for developer to get started because your infrastructure already lives in Terraform. And we leverage primitives that I told you that creates both golden patterns and golden workflows that take you from day 0 to day 2+. The overall takeaway is it's much more simpler Terraform native way to get started with self-service without you having to figure out new tools, new services, new integrations. So it's absolutely easy to get started. Over to Bharath.
All right. So when we started this session, we started talking about the reality of the status quo the pain points developer face, the ghost teams hiding within the organizations, and the producer, consumer, and the approver triad, which wasn't working. And we also saw the answer wasn't in ripping and replacing tools, platforms, and processes, rather extending the foundation that you already have, Terraform. We showed you through the demos that self-service is possible through multiple paths, as there is no one standard way to achieving self-service. It can be through developer portals, it can be through IT service management applications, or from the construct of Terraform itself. Different paths, different entry points, but the same outcome, being standardized self-service without sacrificing guardrails and governance.
But overall, this is the synergy that we want, right? So producers get the governance built in, and on the other side, consumers get self-service, and the approvers get everything, guardrails, they're not being bottlenecks, they're providing the ability to get started as quickly as possible. And Terraform overall delivers this alignment across team without compromise.
Absolutely. And all of these benefits are not only qualitative, right? So there are serious quantitative benefits to achieving self-service using Terraform. Like we saw, there were several thousands of hours that were wasted because of developer and engineering wait times, right? With ghost teams, and we all talked about it.
Yeah, but it's not like the hours are going away. It's just, they just come back as features shipped, value delivered, developers moving faster. So it's going to take minutes to get started for your developers instead of days, and the overall toil is reduced.
Absolutely. Reclaim almost all of those several thousands of hours. It's like getting, again, as I said, 2 or 3 full capacity engineering teams without hiring a single headcount. Think about it. Think about all the bonuses you would unlock if you were to deliver that, right? To take us home, right? Terraform is already the standard for your infrastructure today. And it can be, through the demos and the talk track that we talked about today, the standard for your self-service as well. The shape it's going to take, it depends on your tools, your platforms, your workflows. But rest assured, we are here to meet you where you are and take you along every step along the way.
Yeah, one of Bharath's and my important job is to always listen. So if you're ever passing by, please stop us. We would love to know where you are, what's working, what's not working, where you're seeing the friction. It'll give us all that information so we can take and build it and build a better product that works for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, and have a great rest of your HashiCorp. Thank you.